Night Moves MPU on my bench, and on System 80B games, I am always going to replace this U2, U3 module. The original one was just unreliable after all these years, so I'm always going to replace that. So I don't have it in here now, but I put a machine pin socket in there. And I use machine pin socket because the module itself is machine pins. 6532 was blown, so I put a new one in here, and two of the switches in the switch matrix were blown also, Z11 and Z13. So I can tell the client that something at the intersection of these two integrated circuits is shorted to high voltage. This is at least the second time that these chips were replaced. The first time the fellow who owned it did not use a socket. Always use a socket when replacing integrated circuits, always. The only exception are possibly 8-pin integrated circuits that just don't want to stay in the socket, or some audio circuitry. I also put a socket in the 5101, and I'll ask him if he wants to have an NVRAM installed. I still haven't replaced this filter cap here, but let's fire it up. And with the quick scan 80. 4, 5, 6. 1 is the 5101, 4, 5, and 6 are the three 6532 RIOT chips. So this board is ready to go to an actual game for testing. So I have these Night Moves MPU and driver board in my RoboWar, and it's executing a test right now, but let me reboot this. And that's the typical sound you hear from RoboWar booting. And rather than do the lamp test, let's just show all the lamps working in attract mode. That T finally got to me, and I got in there and put a new bulb in there. Now this lamp over here says launch attack. That one only comes on. It's mechanically driven by when the ramp comes up. So that one's not driven by the driver board. So I've got my switch input tester here, and I'm going to press the start test button. Then I'm going to skip to the lamp test, which we've already established is running. Let me try something here. I'll have to try that again later. So let's switch to relay. So you could hear or see something going on with each of those tests. Now I have put the slam switch mod on this MPU. Also, it's that little loop of wire you can see between the resistor and the ceramic cap. So let's go diagonally across the switch matrix and prove in one fell swoop, whatever that means, that all the rows and columns are working. And the dip switches 1, 7, 4, and 78. That is correct also. And then display test. I'm gonna have to see if I can get Scott Charles to give me a ROM to speed this up. Memory test, and the second prom is 1 Delta Charlie Alpha, and that is correct for our RoboWar. And we're back at the lamp test. Now, when I first put this board into the game, I knew I had already replaced Z13 and Z11 because I knew they were bad. Somewhere a short had fried the switch matrix, so it got Z13, 11, and U4 for sure. When I put it into the game, I noticed when we started lamp tests that it would hold at lamp test, and you hold the lamp test by holding down one of the 2 buttons on the front of the cabinet for entering high score today. Well, that meant that the CPU was seeing a switch closed when it shouldn't have. It was seeing one of those 2 switches closed, and the culprit there was Z15. So if you get into lamp test and it stops at lamp 3, there's a good bet that you still got a switch matrix problem, and you need to at least check out Z15. So this MPU and driver board, and I already fixed the power supply also, are good to go. I'm going to put the Night Moves ROMs back in and make sure it boots. So here's what I was trying to do with freezing the lamp test. It's cabinet switch 6. I had the sense of it backwards, but I can freeze that test. You see I froze it at the pop bumper. I'll let it go now. And I froze it at the extra ball. It's not that useful, but it does show that switch 6 here, if the CPU senses switch 6 held down and you get into lamp test, it'll act like you're holding down this button, and it will freeze on the very first lamp. Oh, here is the board booted with the Night Moves ROMs in it. I was surprised to find out that Night Moves was one of the games that requires the slam switch to be open. So I clipped that off for expediency, but I will remove that now.